Today's great interview is a bit of a tag team event. Me and Todd Putlz, who I've had on the show a while back, who's now become a good friend. We both tag teamed this interview when we talked with Rick Jarman, who's known as Real Estate Old School on Instagram. He's got a great following on Instagram. He's got a lot of great posts. So this is a really fun interview. I really enjoyed listening and hearing Rick's stories. He's a great guy who explains stuff very interesting, and he's very entertaining to listen to. So really enjoyed this very fun and very different, I guess, interview, because there was three of us on this one. Three for the price of one, I guess. As always, like and subscribe on Wrestling with Real Estate, the YouTube channel. If you think it's worthy, give me a 5-star rating and write me a great review. And I'm looking to speak with more of you. You know, I love this interview platform where I get to speak with fellow real estate investors, but I'm looking to get out there more and network with more of you. So if you're interested in real estate and you want to talk about it in whatever capacity, as a beginner, as an expert, as an intermediate, talk about your deals, talk about my deals, let's just get to know each other. I love hearing people's stories. So there's a link in the description down below, or go to wrestlingwithrealestate.com and sign up there. But enjoy today's interview. It's really, really good.
Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Real Estate, where we look to chokeslam all your real estate problems. I'm your host, former WWE wrestler, now Cirque du Soleil performer, and of course, multifamily real estate investor, Barri Griffiths. Now today we have a special edition. We have Rick Jarman with us, but we also have Todd, who's going to act as the co-host, because he's like me, a big fan of yours, Rick. We love your style. We love everything about you. So he wants to be on this call as well as me. So it's going to be a fun call today. So thank you for being here.
I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to it all week. I sure have.
Todd, you got anything to say?
No, man, I'm excited. I follow Rick all the time, and I follow you, Barry. And man, I'm just pumped to be in the same room with greatness like the two of you.
I'm not in the same level as you guys. I'm just happy to be here with both of you. So I'm trying to get to anywhere near you guys' level. So cool. Well, Rick, for anyone who doesn't know, even though I'm sure most people who listen to this will, can you tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what you're currently doing?
Yeah, well, I've been a home builder for 30. Well, I back all the way up. I went into business for myself full time in 1984. I've been a home builder, landlord, remodeler, house flipper, whatever it took to make a living at it. And I've been doing that going on 37 years. I started doing construction work between my 11th and 12th grade year of high school. When I graduated from high school, I started out in the cabinet shop. And all I've ever done, all these 47 years, has been something related to real estate, whether it be maintenance, you know, building, just that's all I've ever done. I've never did anything else, and I still love it all.
That's cool. I've obviously been on quite the journey and quite the investing career, right? Being in real estate this long, I'm sure you've seen a lot of differences. You know, maybe touch on some of the differences. The more things change, the more they say the same, right? That's the saying that they have.
Right.
Is there any bit from when you started to where we are now, right? Obviously, prices have changed a lot, and maybe some laws. But have you seen any big differences per se?
Oh yeah, I mean, I actually did a video, on my Instagram, and I think I called it some old school real estate. You know, I showed how I caught the tail end. Like my second rental house I bought was owner finance, and then you had a little payment book. You'd go to the bank, and they'd stamp your book when you made the payment. If you were trying to check out ownership, you had to go to the courthouse. There was no computers to go by and all that, and, you wrote contracts on the hood of the car. You didn't have computers, and it was a lot different. There were several things like that. And in fact, when I first got in it, you could buy a piece of property sometimes. Everybody knows you get title insurance and get the title check. We used to have the option just to get a title opinion where the attorney would look over the title and they would issue you, saying they checked the title. It was cheaper to get title insurance. And I show in that video how abstract a title looked, where they used to give you that. They'd run the title from when the house was built up to the present owner, and just some neat things like that, you know. But it's been a lot of changes. I caught the tail end of a lot of that stuff. Because like I said, I became a real estate agent in 1983 and did it part-time. And I was a full-time real estate agent in 84 and building for myself. And I became a real estate broker in 1986. So I've been in it a while.
What was it like being an agent back then? How did, you know, what was the process back then?
Well, you know, we had beepers. I can tell you that we didn't. I remember when we got cell phones, that was the best. You know, back then when we finally got cell phones, it looked like you were calling in an airstrike. You know, you had the box and the phone, you know, and like you were calling in from to let the bombs come in or something, you know. But it really changed things, because before you had cell phones, you had to get all your, you know, you'd have a bag full of quarters and you'd go look for a payphone, you know, and you'd get there and then the payphone wouldn't work. You'd have to find another one, and you had a phone book in your vehicle so you could make your calls. And what the lumber companies used to do to kind of hook you into their camp, they would put a two-way radio in your truck or your car, whatever you were driving. So when you needed, like if you were getting ready to build a house and you needed the termite treatment, pre-treatment done in the slab before you poured it, you would call them, their dispatcher would call the termite people for you. So they would do things like that to kind of be sure you bought from them, you know. So it's a lot of things change, you know, but I tell folks real estate never changes. You know, it's the need for housing will never change, you know, since the days of living in the caves. I say you're going to rent or buy or live under the bridge, you know, so only so many can live under that bridge.
Yeah. And so when you were, sorry, this is fascinating to me, just how, you know, how things have changed, right? Is like, so when you were, how did you find as an agent, right? How did you find customers back then? Was it just word of mouth referral? Was it newspaper ads?
Newspaper ads, word of mouth. And the big difference, our MLS book was a book. Our MLS was a book. And when it started coming out twice a month, man, we thought, man, it's the best thing since sliced bread, you know, because, you know, now you go on the computer and you look everything up, but we had a book and we literally had to look up, you know, things in that book, and it would come out every 2 weeks. You know, it started out just once a month, but that was, it was a little different.
So every time you'd have a listing, you'd have to wait till the book came out the following month for people.
For the other real estate agents to know about it, yeah. So it wasn't like it is now, you know, but, you know, you'd have your sign up and you would call them. And back then too, you know, everybody, you'd go by and pick up keys at another real estate company to show the house. And some of them would have lock boxes, you know, later on. But at the very beginning, you just had to go pick keys up and stuff. But like I said, building was my main thing, you know, but I did that too. You had to do it all, make a living.
Yeah. So you started that building was your main thing. You started in construction. What did you start as? Did you have a trade or did you just start?
Yeah, I was a carpenter, started as a carpenter.
Okay.
And then I went to work. So I tell folks I have lived through 6 recessions, counting this one, you know, if they call them this one recession. 2 of them I wasn't in business before. I was in business for myself. But the first one was right when I come out of high school. In fact, I've got a video where I went in and I talked about how long each one lasts and everything when it was. But the first one was right when I come out of high school as a gas embargo. And, you know, it was, you hear stories about World War II with rationing of sugar and whatever. We literally had to, you know, you were only allowed to get so much gasoline. You'd hope you'd have enough to get to work, you know. And so, you know, it's never, you know, everybody just like it's going to be the end of the world, but hey, it'll keep on clicking. I mean, real estate's never going out of style.
Yeah, well, I think that's a fascinating topic right now. You said you've lived through 6 recessions, and who knows where we're going now, right? I think there's a lot of unknown, and I think there's a lot of fear out there for people, and in general, but also in the real estate world. Maybe talk a little bit about how you feel things are right now. I'm not asking you to predict. I'm not asking you to
Sure.
say what's going to happen next, but maybe talk about what you're doing and what you feel comfortable with right now.
Well, you know, other than us having to wear a mask, nothing's different about our business. We're doing just what we've been. We hadn't missed a day because, you know, we were root essential workers, so we hadn't missed a day. The biggest difference I see like now compared to 2008 and the Great Recession, you know, and they would have called it depression, but they already had one of those, you know. And I did all right. If you heard my story, I learned a lot of hard lessons in the late 90s. I basically had to start over. So I knew what to do in 2008. I was sitting good. I had basically the same property I have now. I was able to pull back and live off my rentals. But you couldn't borrow money then. The banks were basically locking the doors, not physically, but they wasn't loaning money. If you had property paid for, you couldn't even refinance it. It was terrible. I mean, I've got a real estate agent that sells for me. She's been with me going on 17 years, and she had to take a part-time job as a dental assistant. And I mean, this lady was probably top 10, 15 in all the real estate agents in our town. It was rough, but there's so much. So today they're doing so many things to help you. You know, you've got the PPP money if you got employees. You've got these loans, you know, from the SBA, you know, 30-year loans, 3.75. You don't pay any interest for a year. I mean, and the banks, you know, it's just things that we didn't have. I mean, I think they learned a lot in 2008. They just, like I said, they just shut the lid and, you know, batten down the hatches and was in damage control. Where now they're really, you know, working with. I don't know about stocks, but is it bullish when you feel good about it? I have felt good about the market all along. You know, I think there'll be some hiccups, but as long as the banks keep loaning, and of course they're saying they're going to keep the rates down, so that means, you know, they're going to loan. As long as prices are going up and rates are down, what we got to be worried about, if the rates go to going up and then prices, you know, that start coming down. It's just the way it works, you know, because I know back, I was president of our local home builders association in 2009. Worst time could be right in the middle of the recession. But there was a study done nationwide, and this is in 2009, and it said every time a new house went up $1,000, it knocked 1,000 people out of the market. So can you imagine what it would be today? That was nationwide. So we're seeing, you know, as everybody knows, material, if you're flipping, you know what material's costing. You know, just a 4x4 treated postage went from $12 to almost $20 around here, you know. And I've got a buddy of mine. I quit building, like I said, I may not say it, but I quit building in 2015 when I turned 60. I just got up one morning, I told my wife, about 2 weeks after I turned 60, I said, I'm through. I mean, building's stressful. I tell them flipping houses is like being on vacation. But material nationwide has gone up $16,000 per house on a new construction. So but people are paying it because the rates are good, you know. Long as the rate, I mean, money's almost free right now.
Yeah. When you were building, what were you building? So you said you were building until 2015, until you were 60. What were you building? One house?
Single family homes. No, I would go in. I wasn't as aggressive after the recession as I was before because my real estate portfolio was at a point I didn't have to be. But right before 2008, I had just bought $1.4 million worth of building lots in a subdivision that I'd been building for about 7 years. I'd go in and buy all the lots, you know, in a phase, and then I did speculative building, you know, where we get the plan, we buy the lot, we put what we want on it, decorate it, and then you hope you sell it. And that was good up to, it's like when they cut the water off overnight, but we didn't have a lot sitting out there, so we were fortunate. We had to work through the lots. That took a little while. But up to 1998, I did a lot of custom building too, you know, because I had kids and, you know, little kids, you got to do what you got to do, you know, and like we talked about. So y'all about the same age as my son, so you know how you was in 1998. So, but, you know, it was, but I was always, you know, food flipping houses, even then, you know, because I used to take a lot of trades. You don't hear anybody talk about that, but I'd take trades on property. And I tell them I took everything on trade but a goat. I mean, just, you know, whatever make the deal work. And I got a video about it, but the way I used to do it, now y'all gonna have to tell me when you won't talk me, shut up, because I just
No, this is awesome.
I mean, You talking me stuff about 47 years worth of stuff. That's hard to, but the way I used to do a trade, which I did a video on this, and I really thought it would do good, but it didn't. But I think what it is, times are so good. So if times change and aren't quite as good, it's really a good tool. What I would do, somebody maybe doesn't want to move twice and they're looking at my new house, or say you've got a house you're flipping, they're looking at your flip house. Well, you try to get them where you get their house down to about 70% loan to value. So you tell them, okay, look, I got to pay a commission when I sell it. I got to set up the loan. I got to figure so much interest and whatever. It's just like trading cars. You know what yours is. They're paying retail for yours and you're paying wholesale for theirs. And the way I would do it, I would do two different transactions. One transaction will be contingent on the other. In other words, be two different contracts. So I'm selling my house. And so when it closes, I get all my profit. I take part of that profits, what I use to buy their house to set up the loan, and pay down on it. So I'm getting most of my money, just enough to set their loan up. Might be $8,000, if it was a $70,000 house or whatever. And it was a good tool. I mean, I used to get rentals like that and other things to fix up and flip. But each contract would be contingent on the other one. In other words, I don't buy yours if you don't buy mine. But that was
that's crazy, Rick. So what I heard from that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you've been in this game a long time, and too often in businesses, not just real estate, but any business, I think we see that the businesses that suffer, some of the businesses that go out of business, they're not willing to change with the times. They're not willing to evolve. They're not willing to get ahead of the curve. And you've been able to be successful because you've done that, right? Whether it's a goat or a car or a chicken, whatever, you've been willing to do what it takes to operate in that time. So I guess that's another testament to kind of how we met you, was through Instagram and social media. So at what point did you decide, after this big, long career and being able to be successful, that, I'm bored today and I'm going to jump into Instagram and all these podcasts and start being a movie star?
I see. Well, I will tell you this about the trade. I took backhoes, motorcycles, a Camaro, a Skeeter boat. I've took so many different things, and houses. But the question on the Instagram, I didn't know what a podcast was a year and a half ago. I did not know, because I don't listen to talk radio and sports radio and stuff. So I didn't know what a podcast was. So my son introduced me to Bigger Pockets podcast, and I listened to it, and I said, well, I'm no expert, but I did a deal or two. I need to try to get on that show. So I didn't have enough sense to know you didn't just, go on there and ask to be on, but I didn't know how to go about it. So I got to thinking, and if you watched it where I was on that podcast, I said I had a story I won't tell about David Green, and I never got to tell it because they cut it out. But this is the story. I'm thinking, well, that David Green's a real estate agent. His number's out there somewhere. So I got online, I found his number, and I started calling him. I said, how you get on this show? I said, it's Rick Jarman, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, blah, blah, blah. And, I'd leave a message, I text him a few times. Of course, I never heard back. And I guess he figured, well, this fool's not going to go away. So he sent me, said, you go on the website, and there's the thing you fill out a biography, a resume or whatever you want to call it, and go from there. So I went on, and I stayed up there one night on my iPad, my old big fingers, and y'all hear me talk all the time. I can't spell. I say I can't spell, but I ain't add like hell. So I'm sitting there trying to get this thing going, and I'm not very, I know how to do QuickBooks Pro and anything I need to do with my business, but all this other stuff, And so I got that filled out and wrote a little something about me. And dadgum, I think I lost it. So I said, dadgum, it's like 1 o'clock. So I got the next day, did another one. So when I sent that one, I said, look, you may have 2 of these from me. If you do, just pick the one you like the best and throw the other one out. But I never heard nothing, because I just figured, I'd fill it out and they'd be calling me. So I said, well, hell, I just start my own podcast. So I go on YouTube. I didn't know nothing about podcasts. So I read about GarageBand, and I'm ordering me a mic and everything. And I needed a website. To this day, I don't have a website. I needed a website. I had a couple people going to do me one. I got impatient. I said, well, it's too much work. I ain't going to do this. I'm going to start a YouTube channel. So I go on, read about YouTube, and I start a little old YouTube channel. It didn't do too good, you know, and I'm thinking, I must not have nothing anybody wants to hear. And I think it's my daughter-in-law said, well, you ought to try Instagram. I said, Instagram? I said, I thought that was Facebook for young people. She says, no, you need to try it. And so I started, and, you know, it just took off, but I was 2 months shy of my 64th birthday when I got on Instagram.
It's never too late, right? It's never too late to start something.
You know, and I've worked, people say, now, what books do you read on real estate? Well, I don't read books on real estate anymore. Not that I know there's good books out there, but I mean, I read a lot, and I've read a lot of real estate books, but I was telling them about one book I'd read that was Robert Kiyosaki and Donald Trump wrote a book together. Hopefully won't nobody get mad when we mention the D word. But, and I got to looking, it was like 16 years ago, you know. So, but I tell them I've been studying stuff on, you know, Instagram and YouTube, and I work it. You know, a lot of people may not realize it, but I did a podcast with a guy last night. He's like 35, and I was telling him about, well, you know, they're going to do this, and you know about reels, you know this, and I was educating him. I'm thinking, man, look at me. So anyway, that's how it all came about.
You were educating him on Instagram stuff?
Yeah. And, you know, I get up a lot of times on Saturday morning was quiet, and I'll sit and read about things and, you know, on it. And I like knowing things. I don't like not knowing how to do stuff. Nothing bothers me. I mean, I like learning. I want to learn something every day. I like to learn. And, you know, I've had to educate myself. I just barely got through high school, and they were just glad to get rid of me, I think, when I got out. Never been to college, never, you know, I paid for it. I paid for my wife's college, paid for my daughters. I paid for a couple of them, you know, but I've never been. But, you know, that's what gets me with a lot of my young followers, because I love them to death, but I do get, in fact, if you saw my video I did yesterday, I mean, every now and then I just get on the butt, boy, because sometimes it helps me, because I get frustrated. They got to learn to be self-starters and dig things out. You know, you got to want it. If you want it, you'll figure out how to make it happen. If you'll see how I bought my first rental house, I got a video about it. I had a 1979 Ford Ranger XLT truck. It was nice. This is like 1981. As the guy I worked with was going through a divorce. He had a house he wanted $10,000 for. It's worth $20,000. Well, I didn't have no money. I mean, I've got 2 babies or 1 baby and 1 on the way. I guess I had 2 of them because they're 17 months, 18 months apart. So I get to trying to figure it out, and I go to my credit union. I said, look, I got this house. It's a good deal. I had been doing keeping up other people's rental property on the side. You know, I worked my job and worked after I got off. And I said, this is a good deal. And so he said, well, I tell you what, if you can get the money for the closing costs and the repairs, we'll finance it for you 100%. So now we're just talking $10,000. So I sold my truck. I went and bought a 1969 Army Green Plymouth station wagon that the tailgate folded down like a truck that I could work out of. It was for $600. It had a loan value of $1,200, so I borrowed $1,200, gave me extra $600 plus the money I got out of my truck, and I got the house. And that house made me so much money over the years because I'd refinance it and cash out, and, you know, it's no taxes when you do that, and go buy something else. But, you know, if you want it, you'll do it. I knew they wasn't going to quit making them Ford trucks, but that house was a good deal.
Yeah. So what,
go ahead.
Sorry, one more question for you, Rick. So you mentioned your young followers, and I have a couple young guys that follow me, and I have about 1/1000th of the followers that you have, but even the local area, they're always talking about mentors, right? And you get DMs every single day, and I do just with my small group. So I know that you're getting pounded, and I'm sure Barry gets the questions too, but I think we all have our opinion on mentors, and really everybody on this call hasn't necessarily had a formal mentor where we went out and spent thousands of dollars on, right? So
right.
But I think at what point, is there a time where a new real estate investor, somebody that really wants to get out and work, is there a time when it's right for them to pay for a mentor? And if there is, how they go about selecting them? Or is there another way that you suggest doing that? I have my own thoughts, but interested in hearing yours.
Yeah. You know, I've never had one. I've had guys I've had attorneys that I would work with, you know, over the years. And one of my first attorneys that taught me how when you know, back then, like when a corporation's 4 LLCs were around, he'd say, you sign your name as your, you know, as the officer you are, like Richard S. Jarman Jr., that's my name, as president, you know, whatever. But he would tell me things, but see, I always tell folks, when you get an attorney, you get you an attorney that's involved in the title company, you know, that you're dealing with, because they want to see you do good. The better you do, the more money they make. So you can get a lot of free information a lot of times. But I've had attorneys like that. And, you know, I had a man that was on the Ace Hardware. And when I was 18, coming to carpenter apprentice, I bought my tools there. In fact, if you'll notice in one of my videos, there's a shadow box in my office. There's 2 hammers in there. That's the first 2 hammers I bought when I started, in a little old pocket watch, because I'm left-handed, and you know, it's hard to drive nails with your watch and everything. And I bought those hammers from his store, and I got to know him a little better. And then when I got ready to build my first house, I went to him, you know, and I bought the tools and stuff from him when I was 18, so I'd buy things from him then on. But when I got ready to build my first house, I just turned 29. I just quit my job and said, I'm gonna build houses. And I mean, I'd never built a house in my life for myself and, you know, paid for it and everything. So there was a lot next door to my house that I bought. And I went to see him to see if he'd financed a lot for me. So he spotted the lot for me, paid for it, and I didn't have to pay him until I sold the house. So that was from basically an 11-year period almost that I'd gotten to know him. So later on, he'd been in the business early. He was always doing something, but he'd built some houses and did some developing. And he called me up one time. He said, look, I got some land that we never developed that I'd like to get it. You know, I don't want my kids to have to deal with it, because he was getting older by this time. And I'm in my, you know, late 30s, early 40s. By this time, all along, I've been doing business with him. He says, if you'll go develop it, I'll finance the land, development costs and everything. Well, why wouldn't I, you know? So, you know, once you get in with people like that, people like to make money. You got money. That's what I try to tell them. Nothing's better than a private money lender. You know, I mean, you got to have banks, but I mean, you got to be able to act on things fast. And, you know, I hear them talk about hard money lenders and stuff. I've never used a hard money lender. I don't really know anything about them. I tell folks, we used to call that Jesse James Finance, you know. Used to be these finance companies that loan money like that. But it's just like this. I was having breakfast yesterday at a restaurant, and this guy that owns it had bought the restaurant 10 years ago and had somebody run it. And he'd been in construction, did commercial construction. I said, well, how's your business been? He said, well, you know, I shut down a year ago. He said, I turned 60. I think that must be the magic number. I said, that's when I quit building. And he was talking about, he said, I just wished I could take a couple $100,000 and put it somewhere and it worked for me. I said, man, you need to become a private money lender. And he says, what's that? I said, I'll tell you what that is. So I went to tell him all about it. He gave me his number. I said, now look, I don't have anything right now, but I told him I've got private money lenders. I've got one I've been using since 1987. And he'll charge me only 5% right now with no originations. I got another one I've been using for 20 years. It charges 2% origination, 7.75%. You know, most of them are, amortized over 15, balloon it 2 if it's a rental, or if it's a flip house, just interest only. But, and people don't understand there's no set rules for private money. And whatever you can negotiate, work out with them, that's what it is, And it's really powerful. So a lot of my guys that used to do that have all retired or dead now, because I started using them when I was young. And, You know, they're all in the 80s and 90s and gone. But you find men, women, or whatever, they want to make money on the money. The bank's not paying nothing now. So you show them how they can make 6, 7, 7.5%. They got a note and a mortgage. They got an insurance policy. They're just like the bank. They're going to be all over it. And I always, when I go to talk to someone about it, I do an amortization schedule. I show them, I said, look, here's how much interest you're going to make. And you know, it's selling. Everything's selling. And I know I'm all over the place, so whatever.
So we know it's really interesting. It's really interesting. So you talked about private money, right? Is that how you finance most of your deal? And what is, so you mainly, so for people who don't know, what do you mainly invest in, right? It's not, you've talked a little about it, but over the past few years, what do you mainly invest in? And how many homes do you currently have?
I have right now, I have right at 125. You know, we had a bad tornado in 2011 in Tuscaloosa, and I lost 26 houses total and a commercial building. So it took a little while, you know, to kind of build back up. But, you know, I've invested, I still invest. You know, I may find a piece of property that I think I can get rezoned and buy it and rezone and flip it. But I mainly buy houses, you know, but I deal with a lot of regional banks. I like regional and local banks, you know, commercial banks, but having a private money lender in your pocket, you can act on it fast. I mean, you know, and when I buy something, you know, my contracts, I preach it all the time. You got to be in it a while, I know it, but I like to do a good, clean contract, you know, no contingencies. You know, I don't want you to fix nothing. That's like foreclosures. You know, when I buy a foreclosure, you know, they're not in the business to sell houses. They're in the business to loan money. So they want it gone, get it out of their, you know, out of their numbers for the bank, you know, because once they sell it, just goes in that bucket of money they lost, and it doesn't stick out. When them auditors there, they're looking into every little thing. So I'll tell them, look, I don't want you to fix nothing. I ain't no contingencies. I'll take it just like it is. Give me a deed and title insurance, and I can close in 7 days. Well, you know, you can't even hardly get an answer back from a bank in 7 days, but it looks good, you know. They're ready to jump all over it, and if your contract doesn't have a bunch of contingencies, you're going to move ahead of somebody that does, or they're going to come back to you when it falls through.
And the reason you don't have any contingencies is because you usually walk the property, or you can kind of look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got that benefit of being able to do that, and I, you know, I know everybody can't, but you could have a contingency for an inspection. But even then, don't try to get them to fix everything, you know, because they want that least path of resistance, because they're not in it to, you know, sell houses. You know, they want to loan money.
So then you have 125 homes. How were you able to, you know, because usually you top out on 10 loans, right? How are you able to finance 125?
Well, you know, you hear people say that, but that's just not so. Especially when commercial loan department. I guess it might be if you're doing FHA or something. I don't know. I hadn't did that in years. I've got one loan right now that when I had a bond issue back before the recession. And, you know, if you ever seen the movie The Big Short, I had did a swap, and anyway, got caught up in that, and I'm under a gag order. But usually when you're under a gag order, that means they tried to, you know, put it to you. But anyway, I've moved mine from this particular bank in an agreement that we worked out. And so I moved, at the time it was 54 houses, and I went to another bank I deal with. And of course we're talking probably 3 years, about 2011, somewhere along there. And I put $500,000 down. I financed $1,550,000. So today there's only 46 houses in it, because they released some of them because I had flood insurance, and I was going to move the loan, and they didn't want me to move the loan, because when I set the loan up, it was only at 31% loan to value. So today, you know, it's, like I said, it's down to $700,000 on 46 houses. If you do the math, and some of these houses are $100 and something thousand houses, that's like $15,000 a house. But what my plan is when I get my tax returns done, you know, October the 15th, you know, I always do extensions. When I get that, I'm going to refinance and take maybe 8 houses or 9, whatever it takes to make the bank happy, and start the loan over. I only do 15-year loans, and I'll start it over on a 15-year loan. So that's going to free up 34, 36 houses or whatever. And I figured today, my payment on right now is almost $12,000 a month. So I'll go from $12,000 a month down to about $5,000 a month. And so I get a little about $7,000 a month raise, and 34, 35, 36 houses be free and clear. That's the game plan.
That's impressive. You know, and I think I like what you said, which is, you know, hey, they say that only 10 loans is it. And I tell people all the time that ask me, like, I've never used an FHA loan on a rental property.
I hadn't either. I've assumed them, but I've never got new ones.
Yeah. And I think that's where people get held up, is they hear all this, and they only hear, if you don't really understand real estate, you don't really understand lending. So all you understand is what you've heard from somebody on a podcast. And people tell me all the time, well, I can only get 10 loans. How am I going to buy this? Right. And, you know, for me, the largest part of my portfolio has been done through owner financing. I know you've done some owner financing too. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what you hear on podcast or some of these other shows is, well, that was back in the day. It doesn't exist anymore. And I still do it. I've done 3 of them in the last 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
So for the new investors that are out there that are wondering about owner finance and how guys are successful and gals are successful getting owner finance deals, I know what my strategy is, but what's been the most successful strategy for you to get into an owner finance deal that benefited you and benefited the other person?
Well, you know, most people don't understand not any piece of property is a suspect to be owner finance. As you know, you find somebody's been in this business, maybe they're ready to get out of it. You know, if the property's paid for, I don't like to do wraps unless I'm the one selling it and financing it, and the wrap it then, you know, that's where they pay me, I pay the bank, because it's only as good as that person that you're paying. So when I buy owner financing, it's usually somebody's maybe been in the business and they're used to getting their money. Maybe they were used to getting rental, and you show them, look, you're not going to have to, you know, pay all your property, you know, you're not going to have to pay all your capital gains on it, because you're going to just get the money a little along. And it's like owner finance is just like private money lending. It's whatever you can negotiate. They may carry it out to full time, or they may only do it 5 years and balloon it, you know. But either way, you're getting it ready where you can go to the bank. You got the track record, you got the property turned around, whatever it needs. But there again, I always take let me slow my brain down. I always take an amortization schedule and show them just what they're going to get, how it's going to work. Here's how much interest you're going to make. And, you know, they're the bank, just like in a private money lender, except they're owner finance, and then you protect them that way. And I like it. I mean, you know, I tell folks private money lending is the next best thing to owner financing.
It's interesting. You're at this point, you're still very active, right? I'm sure you're more than financially free at this point, right? It's, you don't need to work at this point. But, you know, some people might think, well, why aren't you at the beach drinking a Mai Tai or whatever it is, right?
Well, let me tell you about the beach. I had a condo on the beach in Gulf Shores, Alabama, for 13 years. Me and 2 of my buddies, one of them was my accountant, and the other one's a good friend of mine that we did a lot of business together over years. We never rented, so every 3rd week was your week. And, you know, if you're getting down to the beach every 3rd week, you're doing good. In almost 13 years, I never spent a full week there. I get antsy. I'm ready to come back and go back to work. You know, hard work's all I've ever known, and I thrive on it. Now, I've gotten sorry. I mean, since I turned 60, I mean, up to I was 60, I never spent a Saturday at home. I wasn't checking a job or, you know, going to the office work, unless my family has something going. I mean, I don't mean that. I couldn't stay home and watch TV. You know, I'd have to be out doing something. And I'm not one for just piddling around the house, but I've learned to do. I mean, I can stay home on Saturday now and never get out of my sleeping shorts, you know, and just watch TV if I want to. But it's hard to pull back, and that's something else Instagram has helped me with. It gives me something to, you know, put those energies to, because I don't want to be, you know, the hardest thing to do is knowing, you know, and you see things, you think, man, I could make some money with that, you know, bigger projects, and you know you need to pull back. And And that's why I like the single family homes. It's less risk. It's always worked good for me. Like I said, I had a big setback in the late 90s. So, I don't want another setback. And it's through this pandemic, as a lot of people find out, some of these big apartment complexes is not what you want. And, units 10 and less, that's about like having single family homes. It's not like a big apartment complexes. But yeah, it's hard to pull back. It's really been hard for me, but I've got one now. I take off every Friday, and I probably may not even go in tomorrow, but Thursday's one day I usually go in and do payroll, and I like to go over all the bills, because I don't care how good somebody is that works in you, like my bookkeeper, it's numbers to them. They don't understand when you're looking at that invoice. Well, maybe you had a plumber working and he went and charged something on your account or something, and you paying for somebody's hammer or their skill saw, or, you just look for those things. And I'm a little bit of a control freak, I guess, but I like to know where the money's going.
How many people do you employ, or who's on your payroll?
I just have my son. I have an office manager. Like I said, my son's been with me 20 years. My office manager's probably been with me 10. I got a maintenance man that's been with me, started out as a painter, and I trained him to be a maintenance man after we quit building, because I had another guy that'd been with me like 15 years that left. But the painter who's now my maintenance man, he's been with me, I guess, going on 16 years. And then I got a real estate agent that's been with me close to 18 years. But now the only ones on the payroll are the maintenance man, my office manager, and my son. Because the real estate agent, she's commissioned. And then I got another guy that used to be an employee a long time ago, and he's kind of just like works for my different companies, but I keep him busy every day for the last 6 years. So I guess he's kind of like on the payroll. But, before the recession, I had like 20 men that worked for me. I did, I talk about this in one of my videos. When times get good, you got a situation where the tail's wagging the dog. You're trying to get subs and everybody's busy. And, well, I might get to you in 2 weeks of this. And as I told you, I'm a little impatient. So we had 2 framing crews. We did our own vinyl siding. We did our own painting. We did our own trimming. And, we just, when we were building, so we'd get a little slow, we'd go do something with the rentals, So I've always worked my own painters, and I've always had, guys that work for me.
Now you said earlier that you managed 125 units yourself, right, between you and your son. What systems?
And my office manager, yeah.
What systems? Because obviously you're not going around, I'm guessing, collecting rent from 125.
No, we, it's kind of funny. We talked about this last night in a podcast I did. It's just like when COVID started, everybody says, well, what are you doing different? Because I'd been looking at one of these things where people go in and pay online and all this stuff, and I'm thinking, I don't know. But they asked, what are y'all doing different? And this is before we really knew, about COVID, like you thinking touching doorknobs and stuff. Everybody, was washing their hands and sanitizing, which we still do, but, we know it's supposedly transfers a different way. I said, well, we're leaving the front door open where they don't have to touch the doorknob when they come in to pay the rent. And that's about all we did different. We have since put a piece of plexiglass, but, I've got tenants that have been with me. My longest tenant's been with me going on 18 years. And like I told you, I do 15-year mortgages. And I asked her one day, I said, how long have you lived in this house? And at that time, she'd lived in it 21 years. But I got tenants been with me 10, 12 years. And we take checks, we take money orders. If you ever bounce a check, you got to give us money orders from then on. We got a sign up on the door saying we don't take cash, but trust me, we won't turn it away. But, it's just keep getting robbed, But, we do everything through QuickBooks Pro. We got a real simple process, and I didn't realize it'd been this long. I got a work order form that, I think I've told you, I worked at the University of Alabama in maintenance for 10 years till I went in business for myself at 29. And before I left, I'd made a foreman, you know, so I designed this work order sheet. It's 3 copies, white, yellow, and pink. And the way we do it, everything comes in, we write a work order. There's, you know, I know a lot of these computer programs or apps that people use, you know, they call in their work order and they leave but that's, you don't, how do you find out, well, which bathroom is it, which sink, you know, you got to send a man out. You need to know everything you can know. But anyway, we've got this work order form, and we keep one in the office when we issue the work order. The tradesman, whoever it is, takes, you know, when they leave one with a tenant, that lets them know we've been there, and they sign it. Then they bring us back the copy when they turn the keys in, you know, if they had to pick up a key to go do the work. And on it, they're trained to, you know, tell us what was wrong, if there's something we need to build back. And then we just got a credenza's got some baskets in it, you know, it's his work orders in progress, completed, and that's it, out the door, and that's it. And we document everything like that, and that way when somebody says, well, you hadn't did this, and well, let's see, we did this on a certain day and this on a certain day. I mean, and we have a 24-hour answering service. I've been using the same people probably for 30 years. And the way we work it, I'm on call one week, my son's on call, and then the office manager's on call. And like I was on call last week, I didn't get a call all week long, you know, so it's not like, you know, then sometimes I'll be on my Wednesday night live with Mark McMahon, I'll have to deal with a call if I'm on call, you know. But I think a lot of people try to overcomplicate it all. They try to make it more than it is. You know, I like for a person to, we don't even, you know, we don't have a website. If you want to get an application, you come to our office. It's a $35 application fee when you turn it in. But I've trained my people. I say, you know, look out the window when they come in. If they come driving up an old car with 3 spare tires on it and looks like it's on fire, and then they come in, they got kids that's climbing on the chandelier, you know, and how you think they're going to treat your house? You know, if they're doing that right there and the parents can't control them, you know, so you take all these things, and if somebody's doing all this online, you're not seeing them. And we get to know our tenants, you know, they come in and, you know, I had, in fact, the other day, this young man came in, he was 18, 19 years old, and he was paying somebody's rent. Now, I don't answer the phone. My office manager leaves, I say, look, put it on answering service. I'm not answering the phone. But if they come in to pay the rent, I will take the money. And so this young man was paying the rent. And I said, now, who's this for? He said, Mr. Jarman, you know me. But this young man, his mom and dad, had moved in my house when he was 6 or 7 years old, and he's 19. I just, you know, he just grew up on me, you know. But so ours, you know, I've had them leave before, and they call and say, look, we won't come back home. Can we? You know, they won't come back to another house. It's all building those relationships. And it's not hard. I mean, we don't have the nightmare stories. I've probably had to evict 3 people over the last 5 years. You know, if somebody gets in a little bind, we try to work with them because it's cheaper to work with them. Then that house get empty and you're trying to repaint it and get it ready. And then the downtime, you're better off trying to work with them and charge them a little interest and let them pay you, you know, catch up.
So with that, I think that's an interesting. I'm sure you've learned pretty well now how to find good tenants, right? Obviously, if you've only had 3 evictions in the last 5 years and you have 125 homes, you're doing something, right? How do you find the tenant? You always, you know, I'm sure your process is as good as any.
We're getting them to come to the office. That's the hard part. We put a sign up in the yard. That's all we do. But I mean, I hadn't ran ads in years. I don't do Zillow and all that stuff. We just stick, because if somebody's wanting to live somewhere, they're going to be riding around that area, you know. And I tell people, tenants look for the same thing you look for. They want a safe housing. They want to be able to walk from their car to the house and not be dodging bullets. They want the kids to be able to play in the backyard. They want the best schools that they can get for their situation where they live. So that's the things I look for when I'm buying property, so you've got a demand for them. But the biggest thing is we have the credit bureau right in our office. And, you know, people don't realize, you know, I don't care about your Beacon score, your FICO score, or whatever they call it this week. all I want to look at, and you can still get, I call it old school credit report. You know, it'll show if they got collections, bankruptcies, how many times they're late in 30, 60, 90 days, everywhere they've lived, you know, and who they're paying, who they're not paying. And I tell folks, you know, liars can number, but numbers don't lie. In a credit report, you can tell something about somebody pretty quick. If they're paying their utilities, they're paying the vehicles. I don't care if they have medical collections, because a lot of people don't have insurance. I don't care if they're not paying their student loans, you know, but if they're paying all these other things, and when they fill out their application, they sign something where we can check with their previous landlord and their present. If they're paying them and they, you know, everybody's happy with what's going on, they're going to pay me. It's just that simple. I mean, you're going to miss it. I still approve every application. There's nobody to blame but me if it doesn't work out. And you're going to get some going to be a little slow or something that could change. But most of the time, you know, you hear people say, oh, if they don't pay me by the 3rd, I do the 10th, because that's just where it was when I started out, and we still do it. But you hear people say, if they don't pay me by the 3rd, I'll slap an eviction notice on. Well, that's crazy. You know, I have a 10% late fee in mine. As long as they don't go over 30 days, if their rent's $850, if you put $850 in the bank and you let it draw interest and say you could get 10%, which we know you can't, but I'm just saying it was fantastic. That's $85, right? I hit them with a 10% late fee. I can make $80, $85 every month if they late. That's good money. Don't, you know, hell, I ain't kicking them out. Not if they good tenants just because they're in a little bind. Just pay the late fee.
I always tell them, a lease sign, Rick, I say, look, I don't want to charge you late fees. I just want you to pay your rent on time. That's about the only lie I ever tell my tenants.
Yeah.
Right?
I love late fees.
Income stream.
Well, and you get some of them, they get into that cycle, or that, you know, they just, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, they get in that with every month they're paying it, and they just gets to be part of what they're thinking about. I got a couple of them that come in every month, they're paying a late fee. They all know I don't carry it over, though. I'm not going to let it go over 30 days because, and I do a lot of Section 8. You know, I'm probably 95% Section 8. So I get a good bit of my money from the, you know, the government. Like I usually get one check from the Tuscaloosa Housing Authority where they do it every 10th of the month. They have it in your account by the 10th of the month. Well, I get one from them for about $40,000. And then another city of Norport's across the river, I get one for about $15,000 in the mail by the 10th. So, you know, the rest of my rent comes from the tenants, you know, a couple of them that aren't Section 8 and whatever. But when you're getting that helps you through all this stuff. I mean, I've only got all this going on. I've got 2 people that I'm really having to work with. It's not, you know, keeping it up by the 30th. And one of them was like this before. I mean, I was getting ready to evict her when all this broke out. I mean, I'd already had, you know, served her, and then they put the freeze on it. So we're sitting pretty good. I mean, like I said, I mean, between the, you know, the PPP money and the SBA loans, we making money.
Are you still looking to buy now?
Yeah. I bought I got a flip house going. We're trying to flip at least one house a month, just for the fact, and we're behind probably 2 houses because of COVID. But, you know, I've got to what I said about the office. So, you know, in other words, we're not building, so Jarman Realty and Construction doesn't make any money. I mean, I've asked my accountant, do I need to start billing my other companies a management fee, and he's going to let me know at the end of the year if we need to start doing that or back up. That's something they back up and do if we need to. Just so if Jarman Realty and Construction doesn't make enough money to pay my son's salary, my office manager, and the maintenance man, his is kind of covered because you bill back repairs. In other words, Jarman is our holding company, and then we bill the other companies for the repairs and whatever, and then distribute the money. So if we don't make enough money to cover all the salaries, it has to come out of my rentals, and I don't like that. So we keep flipping for that reason. But I've bought 2 flips in the last, 2 rentals in the last little over a month, and I bought one to fix up the flip, and I got one under the contract. It might be 6 months because it's a state situation. But now, with that being said, I've sold off probably this past year 3 houses. One of them I'd actually built new before the recession. It was like affordable housing. And it's the only time I did 5 of those before the recession. I'd sold 2 of them and ended up with 3 of them during the recession. So I set them up on 20-year loans. That's the only time I ever did 20-year loans. So I had sold one of them. I still got 2 of them that I rent. But one of them had gotten too valuable for where it is, because I don't do student rentals and I'm in a college town. So if it gets to growing out, I would sell that and then find something more, what I like. So I sold that house. I sold another one. Actually, I sold 3 houses this year already that had gotten too valuable to keep for Section 8. They were more valuable for student rental. And I don't do student. I sold all my student rental a while back because I don't like it.
Why don't you like it?
Well, I worked out there for 10 years in housing in the dorms and the rental property, and I always said, hell, I get out here, I don't want to do nothing with no students. But it's like this, they can tear up an amble. I mean, it's a big turnover. You've got your turnover every year, twice a year, where with like my tenants, it's almost like it's on automatic pilot. I got a tenant in there, I know they're going to be there. They're going to bring the money in, or we're going to call them, say, what's up when you're coming in? Now, there's a late fee. And I say, my office manager, I don't do any of that. I don't knock on the door. If I knock on the door, something's wrong. It ain't good, so. That's just with student rentals, it's a constant turnover a lot of times. And, it's like this too. Just about every kid's got a mom and a daddy, maybe a stepmom and a stepdaddy, and most of these student rentals, they rent by the room, So you may have a 4-bedroom house, and there's going to be 4 kids or students living there. So that means you've got minimum, 8 parents. And if some of them been married before, you got that many more, and you're dealing with all that. I'm just set up for Section 8. I like C-class. I like good working people. I like it better. I just found my niche, what worked for me.
Yeah. Why change, right? If you're successful, why
yeah, change? It's worked, so no need to reinvent it.
Everybody wants to talk south of C-class, though, don't they, Rick? Like I love it. I argue with them all the time. Now, here's my last question for me. We've been arguing all over some of the other forums, right? And I keep hearing all these smart investors tell all these new investors that you don't build wealth through cash flow. I think I know what your answer is, but tell us about that.
Just look at old Grant Cardone if you want to know about it. He's, you've been reading about him lately. He's got his train fixing to jump the track, I'm afraid. But I mean, I want cash flow. I give you a good example. I had this young lady. She used to buy lots from me every now and then back in the 90s. She built some houses, and she was getting back in it, and she was selling real estate. And she was looking at a piece of property, and she called me about it. She told me where it was. I said, yeah, I mean, she was wanting to know about the neighborhood. I said, look, I got some houses down the street, up the street, and whatever. She said, in fact, if you don't buy it, I will. But I sit there and showed her. She asked me about another neighborhood that I just did a flip in. Well, this neighborhood, let's say you could buy the house for $125,000, which that'd be a steal in this neighborhood we're talking about. And you had the perfect storm. You didn't have to pay anything down, and 100% finance, and everything was just perfect. Your payment still was going to be on this particular house about $1,100 and some $100 and some change, $1,100 something. I said, and if you're lucky, you might can rent it for $1,200-1,300 maximum. But now this other house you're looking at, you're talking about getting it for $40,000, maybe put 10, 15 in it, and what you could rent it for, it was going to cash flow like $300, $400, $500 a month, $400 say. And the other one really wasn't no cash flow, $100, I think, when we got through looking at it with the payment. I said, now sure, this other house in 10 years is going to be worth more than this cash cow. But that cash cow's throwing that money out every month for years. I mean, you know, you think about it, I'd rather have the money. Excuse me. Had some chili, and I think it was talking to me. But yeah, the cash flow is where it's at for me. I want the cash flow. You know, our gross rents, you know, I'm a goal setter, big goal setter. Did I ever tell y'all how I even got on the podcast? I never did tell you that. We got so sidetracked. Y'all, I'll get back to that. Yeah, I'll just go back to that, and then I'll come back to the cash flow.
Okay.
Back to the podcast. You know, I never heard anything, and so I started that, and I got on Instagram. Things going good. And my son said, "Well, Daddy, what you gonna do? You still want to be on?" Because every time I was on the podcast, I'd say, "I want to be on that podcast one day." I believe you if you don't dream it, you can't conceive it. It's just that simple. I told my son, I said, I plan to get big enough one day they'll call me. Lo and behold, I get a phone call on a Wednesday. Won't know, can you be on the show on Friday? I said, you bet I can. That's how it came about.
That's
so
great.
Anyway.
So that's why you grew your Instagram, so that you would get big enough so that they would.
Well, that was the goal, but not just for that, but that was one of my goals, and I wanted to be on there. And I just, I don't write goals down. I think they're important enough you keep them in your mind and always on your thoughts, and so enough people said, man, y'all need to have him on here. Y'all need to have him on there. And so they called me. So that's how it come about. I've had people say, how'd you get on there? And I said, man, I willed it. You just, I don't know. I mean, you just keep doing your thing and somebody's going to notice. And anyway, but back to the cash flow now. We're like right now, today, we're probably almost 900,000, a year on our gross rents. My goal, and I just said this a couple of years ago, I'd love to see it hit $1 million. That would just that's just a good number to say, man, I got a gross $1 million coming. But now our portfolio real estate's up around 11,000, but I have like less than 2 million debt, so we're sitting pretty good. But they're nothing fancy. I mean, I got some brick houses that are worth 160,000 or whatever, but I bought them when I could buy them for 45, 57 or something, and I still rent them Section 8 because I could get $200 more a month not going Section 8, but I do that when I got tenants that have been in them. Section 8 pays every month. I mean, so I'm about the cash flow.
Well, have you bought any rentals recently? Maybe talk to us about the numbers that you're buying.
Yeah. I bought 2 rentals within the last 5 weeks. I did videos on them. One of them was a foreclosure from a bank. And actually, I hadn't even had it a month. And I decided today I may put it on the market. I bought it for $75,000. Beat this thing I ever saw. I did a video on this house. It had new carpet, new heating and cooling, new paint, new cabinets, countertops. It had a refrigerator. I brought the refrigerator home to my house on my carport, my garage. Because it's brand new. Mama liked that. It's got dishwasher, microwave, everything you could want. You could go watch the video, and I got it for $75,000. They start out wanting $134,900, and it didn't sell, so they marked it down to $98,000. And it's right next door to one of my rental houses, and I didn't even know about it. Buddy of mine, I got a guy that kind of bird dogs for me. He's a real estate agent, but he wholesales, and the way I work with other real estate agents, I let them make all the money. I don't want the commission. I want the property, So he told me about it. I said, man, I got a house over there. I wrote out and said, it's right next door to my house. But the kicker was people were parking in the yard. They were using this house as a parking because everybody, it's a nice neighborhood. And you see the video, you'll see it. But they didn't have room, so they was parking in the driveway. One guy had a big old car hauler truck in the yard. And I'm thinking, no wonder they couldn't sell this thing. So the bushes was up tall. I mean, it was just... But you go inside, it's like a brand new house. And like I said, it had a brand new heating and cooling. So anyway, I go in, I offered them $60,000 because they had it for $98,900. And they didn't even count it. And I said, So I raised my offer up to $70,000. They come back at 85. I came back at 75 and I got it. I looked at the numbers today on the low side. I told my son, you know, it gets sometimes you say, man, I need to keep this. But then I get to look and it take me 10 years to make, you know, on the cash flow, because that's kind of getting to the top of the line, what I like to pay for one. It take me 10 years to make the money, and I could make a little more money just selling it. I mean, I looked at it and you do the math. I did it, I think, at 129.9 minus a 5% commission, minus 3,000 closing costs I'd pay if I sold it. Another 3,000 that I probably got tied in it, my closing costs. Well, it's $40-something thousand profit if I flip it. And I'm thinking, I believe I'm gonna flip it. So, but I bought another one that was $50,000. I did a video on it. They were asking 60. It was assessed at the courthouse for 89. I went in and offered them 50,000. And the first time they were going to take it, the woman found out she might have to bring 5,000 something dollars to the table to close. So she backed out. So they were going to set somebody else, and they wanted a bunch of things fixed because they were going to live in it. The deal fell through. They come back to me, would I still buy it? And I said, sure. So I got it for 50,000. She had to bring $10,300 to the closing table for me to buy the house to pay off her mortgages. I own a duplex right up the street. The house rent for $875, $885 a month. I paid $50 for it. We'll put about $5 in it, fixing it up. And that's a good cash flow right there. So, you know, and people see that and they say, oh man, I'm coming to Tuscaloosa. It's probably just like you, Todd. They're not all like that. You're finding deals, you know. The house is worth 90-something thousand, but I got it for 50. I can do a little work on it. It's worth that. That doesn't mean the rest of them are priced that way. You know, I tell people a deal doesn't have a big sign on it that said deal. You got to know your market. You got to know what you're looking for and recognize the deal.
Well, that's it. I think through transparency and honesty and really networking, the deals find you. You know, I mean, just in the last week, I've put 10 properties under contract between, you know, our real estate group and different investors that I have that use me as a realtor, and not a single one of them was on the market, and they're all just banging deals, right? I mean, we had one guy, you know, a guy that I work with all the time from New York. He's got a 10-unit multifamily up here for $210,000. Fully rented, rents at $525, so you can run the numbers on it. It was a beautiful deal, but it wasn't on the market, and that
Right.
comes through your network and working with people, and overall when you're honest with them, and especially other realtors, once they know that you can close a deal and you can close a deal fast, deals will find you. You know, they'll call you all the time.
Well, people ask me all the time, do I think they should get the real estate license? I think it's a good to have as you're doing, you know, it's not, you know, building. You got to meet a concrete truck. You got to be there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But if you're flipping houses, fooling rentals, and you're a real estate agent, if you need to do this or do that, you can work it in between your showings. But I always tell them, don't get to thinking like a salesperson. You always want to think as an investor, because both of these pieces of property I just talked about were listed with a real estate company. Not, you know, my guy told me about one of them, and one of them I just found it on MLS. I said, I'll go in and type a certain range that I want to look at everything in that range. And it's usually higher than what I'm willing to pay, but I'm thinking in my mind, I'm going to make somebody come down and get a deal, you know. How big, like where you live, what's the size of the county? How many thousand people?
We're at Barri out in Nevada, or out here in Dayton?
Let's say Dayton.
Oh, I don't know. I live in a little suburb of Borders, Dayton, and we're right around 30,000 people, you know, 35, 40,000.
Yeah.
You know, so Dayton's, you know, a couple 100,000, whatever it is, million.
So
I don't even know what it is. All I know is the deals are out there. I don't care how many people live in the city, and I got renters.
Right. Well, see, Tuscaloosa County, there's only 218,000. That's counting the university, which is probably 45, 50. What's hurting us right now, I hadn't looked at the numbers this week, but listed with the MLS, single-family homes in Tuscaloosa County, it was only 500 and something, from the most expensive to the least expensive. So something comes on the market, multiple offers. I mean, boom, 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 you know. So you got to really be hustling and hunting to find a deal, but you can do it. I mean, like I said, you know, I went through a period there though for about 2 months. I couldn't find anything. I was thinking about maybe trying to build a, you know, rental house. And when I got the numbers pulled together, it just wasn't going to work for my numbers. And I just said, I just had to sit back because I'm not going to buy it if it's not a deal. If I don't buy anything, I'll just wait. You know, it's always got to be a deal with me. I tell everybody it's always got to be a deal. Your money's made when you buy, and then everything else is gravy.
Yeah, for sure, right? It's how much you pay for something is just so important. Rick, this has been phenomenal. I think me and Todd are just the whole time has just been loving this. I love how you talk about it, and I love so many of your sayings, just the way you talk. I could listen to you all day. I really can, but I'm trying to be respectful of your time. So before we go, there's four. I think I told you before, 4 questions that I like to ask everyone with that wrestling thing.
Yeah, he gave me a lot of time to think about it, didn't he? Okay.
It's more fun when I put you under pressure, I think.
That's all right. I can handle it. I got big shoulders.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you had to pick a wrestling name for yourself, what would it be? What would your wrestling name be?
Oh.
Todd, what was yours? I've forgotten what yours was, I think.
Oh, man. You know, I'm still getting made fun of after you released that show because I used toddler, you know, which is what my wife calls me.
Oh, yeah.
My honeymoon name.
Mine would be Big Daddy.
Big Daddy, okay. I like
that.
Big Daddy. So every wrestler has a special move. What would your special move be in real estate? So what is your strength in real estate?
Pile driver.
Okay.
I'm going to slam them. I'm going to get it, whatever that would be, you know.
Okay. But what is your strength in real estate? Do you think
what is my strength?
Yeah.
In a wrestling, not wrestling, but a wrestling term.
No, or just in real estate in general. Is it fine?
Oh, what is my strength? I think it's
connecting.
Oh, I think it's being able to spot a deal. Yeah, I think that would be my, you know, knowing and being able to walk through in 10 minutes, you know if I want to buy it or not and what I need to do to it, you know, and not, you know, not even crawling under the house or anything, you know, just knowing I know I can make money with it. That'd be it, I guess.
Cool. What's been the biggest body slam you've taken in your real estate investment? What's the biggest thing that's
like the worst thing that's happened, you know?
Setback, yeah, one of them. It doesn't have to be the worst.
Or the worst or the best. What are we looking for here?
The worst. What's been the biggest body slam you've taken? So the worst thing that's happened.
Oh man. Ooh, that'd be. I would say, you know, I had a bad partnership, and that's kind of like a bad divorce, you know, that ended up costing me probably $1 million. So that would be my biggest money learner, you know. I would say, after that, I said I'd never have a partner again in my everyday business, except my son, which that's different, you know. Now, I'll have partners in deals and other companies, but my main company, because, you know, when you joined at the hip and one of them, and times get hard, that's when you got to be bowing up and making it happen. And one of you goes crazy and chasing the skirts and partying all the time, just running from the situation. It can get rough.
Well, that's when a real partnership is tested, right? When things.
That's it. You know, I always tell everybody, you know, if you're going to have a partner, I've never did even today with my people I do business with, but I tell a lot of the young people, I said, get you a buy-sell agreement. You know, if you're going to get married, you need a prenup. So you're going to do business, you need a buy-sell. But I've never had one with anybody, but I always tell them that, you know. Like my daddy used to say, boy, don't do as I do as I say. You know. You ever hear that, Todd, growing up?
Man, all the time. And I did everything opposite of whatever he told me. So, you know, it turned out all right.
That's right. That's right.
So was there a moment you were standing on the top rope, getting ready to jump, but you were scared? What was it and how did you overcome it? So was there a moment you were scared to take action or move forward or do something in real estate?
You know, I don't want this to come off wrong, but I've always been kind of fearless in business. and it's got me in trouble before. You know, it's just like when I got into trouble in the late 90s, you think you've got the golden touch. I mean, I come from working a minimum wage job when I got married, you know, quit my job at 29 at the university, built my first house. By 32, you know, I'm a millionaire. And that's when $1 million was $1 million, boy. And then by 43, I'm having to start over, and I can't even get a $19 pager in my name. But, you know, you're a lot smarter the second time around. And I just, you know, I'm not a quitter. You know, I just, you know, you might lose some battles, but you're going to win the war. I just don't quit. You know, I've been married 47 years. It's been times, you know, it's been easier to quit, and you don't quit. And in this business, you can't quit. If you'll keep going, and what I had to do back then, I sold off all my real estate. My real estate saved me. You know, my building company is where I got into buying, but having property that I sold, I had like 35 houses that would have been paid for in about another 7 years. I had a 16-unit apartment building, and sold it. You know, I had a partner on the apartments, but not the houses. But I was able to sell them off, pay everybody, do what I need to do, pay people I didn't even have to pay, but I paid everybody, and I could still be in business, you know. And so there's a book I read. People usually ask you what book, and this book, and it might not do for somebody else what it did for me, but it was called Master Builder. It's about Trammell Crow. Have y'all ever heard of Trammell Crow? At one time, he was the head of Walmart of being the richest man. Then he got caught up in a commercial downturn in real estate. But this guy would work with all these different partners. And when I was rebuilding, that's what I had to do. I had the talent. So I would get partners that were money men. Excuse me, Chile talking again. So, you know, he had a diagram in there, and it was almost like a spider web. He's in the center, and all these partners. It'd be like I might be a partner with you on some stuff, some things with you, Todd, and Joe Blow over here, and none of the partnerships have anything to do with each other. I'm the only one that's the center of it all. I had attorneys I did business with, accountants, appraisers. People knew that I knew how to make money and that I was honest and I was going to take care of them. I mean, even the accountants, I handled the checkbooks. I mean, they knew me and my reputation. So they did business with me. And the way I would do it, I got a couple of videos on my channel, how I did on my Instagram page. I would be that they would put up the money, or if they went and borrowed the money, it didn't matter to me where they got it, you know. If they put up their money, we'd pay the same interest to them as we'd be paying the bank. They'd be wearing two hats. We were literally partners. We'd set up an LLC. And if they went and borrowed it, and their job was to get the money, my job was to do the work, oversee it, sell it, you know, get paid a commission and everything. And I didn't want to turn around and tell you I need $20,000 and you say, well, I got to see if I can get it, because you had to have the money. I did my thing, you did your thing. And we'd pay them interest, like I said, just like the bank. And so that was good for them and all my partners. They made money. And what would happen at the end, when we'd sell it, we would deduct all the costs, get the net profit. We'd split it 50-50. They loved it. I mean, and I did that at several different partners, and that's how I was able to build back, because sure, I may have not only been getting half of the money, but my money was free to do buy property and do, because I could still be doing deals for myself too. And I didn't look at one like, okay, just because I own all this one. I looked at every one of them like I owned it. You know, you're my partner, but that house is my house. I'm going to sell it, flip it, or whatever. Not just because, you know, just because I own half of this one, all this one, I wouldn't put it ahead of the other one. You know, it didn't matter to me. It was all about making that profit. And so that book is where I picked that up at, and it's made me million. In fact, I'm gonna probably do a video about it. I won't go back and reread the book because I hadn't read it in years, but that book made me millions of dollars.
Cool. It's called, what is it called again?
It's called Trammell Crow, Master Builder. And he's not he's not like a builder, but he was one of the early guys that did, like out in Texas, he did, the markets like you have in New York where they'd get furniture companies to come in and he'd build a building, big atrium, and lease out spaces and warehouses. And then he did shopping centers, and he had a company called Lincoln Properties, Trammacrow Properties, and they're still out there today with his name, the properties.
Cool.
But that was probably the best book, made me money.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much, Rick. I know we're running over time, and we said we'd be done 15 minutes ago, but it's been really fascinating. It's just, I know someone who has so much experience as yourself, and you're just an extremely hardworking, good guy, right? It's just you put things in such simple terms. You make it, and real estate is kind of simple to some extent, right? But I think we all are guilty of overthinking it sometimes. But it's to hear your stories and to hear your success and to hear how you've done it has just been fascinating. I think me and Todd have loved it.
I feel like all I did is talk, and y'all hadn't said much. But
that's how it should be, right, Todd?
That, you know what? I say it all the time, right? Like, you're going to bring a guest on, like, let him tell the story. That's why you brought him on, right? And that's what people want to hear. So awesome stuff, Rick. I love being with you guys tonight, and I appreciate you letting me join in with you.
Well, y'all have almost had me in my work mode. You notice I ain't been near as jolly and carrying on like I do, because I got two modes. I got a work mode and I got a fun mode. I play just as hard as I work. But now, and we was talking about, when I was talking about being fearless, I think when you start with nothing, you're not worried about losing like somebody. I mean, I know when I had to start over in '98, there were 3 builders in my town committed suicide. A couple of them came from money. I guess when you come from money, it's harder, but I just, I literally had to go back, put my nail apron back on, do what I was doing when I was younger, because I could regroup, and you just, in fact, I was building a garden home for a lady that I was doing, I didn't frame it, but I was doing the painting, the trimming, and I was down there. My wife come see me one day, said, "Don't you want a radio or something?" I said, "No, I'm letting my head heal," because I'd went through the times, but I come home one day, I hadn't shared this with anybody. So, on all the podcasts, because I really hadn't thought about it. But I come home one day and I told her, I said, "I got my real estate brain back today." And she said, "What do you mean?" Because for so long, it was like I had blinders on. It was just like survival mode. But then all of a sudden, it's like they were way and I could see deals again, And that's kind of hard to explain, but I think it's how your brain does sometimes to keep you from going crazy, But you asking about, it never entered my mind to do what some of these other guys. In fact, one guy, I was living in a nice neighborhood, and this guy he was my neighbor. And he had a son the same age as my son. I think my son was probably about the 6th grade at the time, 7th, whatever. And I'm thinking, your son would have rather had you as daddy there and lived in a mobile home. There's nothing wrong with that, because I lived in a mobile home too. But then to kill itself, because it's over then, you've took the easy way out. And I know sometimes there's mental illness or whatever, but a lot of time when men in business, you get like that, you either got to pull the cover over your head and say, "Why me?" or you get up and lace your boots up and you kick ass.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Make it happen.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to finish, because that's just lace your boots up and go to work, right? That's
it.
That's awesome. Well, Rick, thank you so much for taking the time. I honestly, genuinely, really, really appreciate it. It's been so much fun. I could listen to you all day. I really, really could. But
I've enjoyed it.
Before we go, can you tell us what your Instagram is called? And
yes. My Instagram is Real Estate Old School, and my YouTube is Real Estate Old School. I still got that YouTube. It hadn't did what my Instagram had, but I still got it. It's getting there.
Well, guys, anyone who's interested in real estate, so go check both those out. I know I subscribe and follow both of them because it's.
Well, I appreciate it.
Also, thank you so much, Todd. Thanks for being on this, man. It's been a really good one. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And yeah, I just love this conversation.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
I hope one day we can all meet up.
Yeah, for sure.
That's it.
Absolutely.